Austin Peay next up. Tennessee could go out there and a D- game, and they're going to win this football game. But on the flip side, you've got a guy in Joe Milton who you would love to be in the conversation of a Heisman Trophy. To have 2 quarterbacks 2 years in a row. So Caleb brought this up in our 3:45 a.m. production meeting, and that was, should Tennessee run it up to boost Milton's numbers purely for Heisman talk later in the year? What do you think, Fred?
I think if that's what you're doing, you're wasting your time. And I think you're not being productive for your football team. I think you try to figure out ways to go out and get better, and the score just be what the score is. You should go out and try to figure out how to get your passing game clicking. You should go out and how to figure out how to make sure your running game is still on par, and also dominate a team that you should be able to dominate, whether it be offense and defense, and also work on your special teams things as well. If you're going out to try to figure out how to get somebody stats for Heisman, he's probably going to lose it in the first place. That didn't do very well for us back in the day. I don't think that we do very well for us now. I just look at it from a standpoint of you go out and try to win the football game and get your team better against an inferior football team, and you know they're inferior, so you should make sure you put the points up on the board just by being productive and get into a flow of things. If you're going out there just for stats, yeah, you're doing your team a disservice.
All right, you brought it up, Caleb. Defend yourself.
Okay, I'll defend myself on this because I think there's a fair argument on my end, Fred. You know, this is college football, and it's still a 14 playoff, not a 12-team playoff yet. So there's still going to be a style points factor at the end of the year that people are going to take into account. I remember y'all's national championship year. There was a moment where there was a bit of a concern that y'all didn't have the margin of victory, which was so stupidly a factor in the BCS formula in '98. And so I'm just saying, isn't it true that still in college football, you need those style points at the end of the year? So maybe 70 points looks better than 60 points if you're trying to get into the playoff.
If you're TCU trying to get to the playoffs, possibly. But if you're Tennessee in the SEC and you're undefeated, I'd much rather have an undefeated season than a Heisman quarterback. Plain and simple. The reason, because if I'm TCU or Colorado, yeah, them style points do matter. But if you win the SEC, everybody knows who the SEC is. We won so many championships. I don't even know when to stop counting them. So we don't need style points. You just need to win games. You can win by half a point. You can win by 0.25 points. As long as you win the game, that's all that matters.
That's a really good point. Now, you made a reference a second ago that didn't work well. Did you feel like when Peyton Manning was a senior or even a junior, there were times that there was some stat padding going on, maybe for individual awards? Was that what you're referring to?
No, I think he more so was asked to do things that you probably shouldn't have been asked to do as a quarterback in college. I think we put a lot of things on his plate and for him to handle in games where there were times he wasn't coached as well as he probably should have been, and he had to just go out and figure it out himself sometimes. And we put too much on a guy that we knew was very talented and very smart. And I think that those are things that probably cost him a Heisman, in my opinion. You ask a guy to do something that's 20-something years old, man, to basically coach yourself on the football field sometimes. And he did a good job of it, don't get me wrong. But when you ran up against guys like Steve Spurrier and his defense, it was a little bit different because those guys, that's what they do. You know, I think game plan wise, we could have changed some things up, ran the ball a few more times. The year we had Jamal Lewis in '97, I would have much rather saw Jamal Lewis running the football a few more times in that game and then us passing it as many times as we did. Because the team that won back in those days were the teams that ran the ball the most, actually had the most rushing yards and not the most passing yards. But hindsight is 20/20. I'm not going to put it on Peyton or our staff. I just want to say that if we were trying to pass the stat pad or whatever, it wasn't a good idea. It didn't work.
No,
just win the game. And so, and if you go back and you look at it, if we win that Florida game, I think there's no way possible that Peyton wins a Heisman if we win against Florida, in my opinion.
Completely.
And it doesn't matter how you win it. He could have had 200 yards passing and one touchdown or no touchdowns. Just the win itself, I think he would have won the game, won the Heisman, in my opinion.
I agree. Caleb, jump in here, but I think that it wasn't not just using Jamal Lewis. It was not just running the football more.
Yeah.
No matter who was in the backfield. Obviously, Jamal Lewis was special and he should have played. I'm not arguing that, but there should have been more adherence to running the football, Caleb.
Absolutely.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think statistically, I remember the 2006 team like set a record for how often they relied on the passing game, and it was the record they broke was the 97 team. But the only difference was the 97 team actually could run the ball. The 2016 couldn't run the ball to save their life, so it didn't make sense. Fred, I'm gonna put you on the spot here because we had this conversation yesterday, and now I want Fred to answer. Which coach? Because we brought up coaching. Which coach was worse, Butch Jones or Derek Dooley?
I think they were equally. I think they were equally horrible. But I think I'm going to go Derek Dooley simply because he had no personality. Butch at least has some personality. Yeah. Derek Dooley was a coach who said, you should take emotions out of the game. There has no place in the game. I'm like, are you kidding me? The game is peaks and valleys, highs and lows. When you get up, stay up. If you're just playing the game even kill, this kind of taught me one thing about the guy. That's why you were a walk-on. And I'm sorry to say it that way, and I'm sorry for the guys who I played with. They were, not on scholarship. You guys don't think like Derek Dooley. I promise you. You guys played with us. It was different. And not a knock on any walk-on guys, just this guy, Derek Dooley, who said that emotions should be a part of the game. Tells me you weren't that good of a football player as well. You might as well put on a band uniform like Butch Jones did. But at least Jones had some at least Butch Jones had some enthusiasm and showed some emotion. That band job probably helped him out with that.
Yeah, controlling his emotions. But I want to get a little sidetracked here for a second because the message board is going crazy about the Peyton Manning thing. And so real quick, I've never asked you this as many times as we've talked, but I want to address a couple of things that Tennessee didn't do anything. This on the message board by, I believe, Travis, to promote Peyton. That actually wasn't the case. I thought they overly promoted Peyton. Guys that I knew in the media back then, that was the year before I really got in it, their mailboxes were full. I think the national media was tired of Peyton Manning. I think ESPN tried to drum up Ron Dane, several other players to make the show, the Heisman show, get more viewers. And I think it got away from them. And I've talked to people at ESPN about that. They were like, oops, we kind of manufactured this Heisman winner with Charles Woodson. Champ Bailey was better, by the way. But did you guys care as a team? Was it a big deal when Peyton Manning didn't win the Heisman in '97? And I've never asked you that.
We all thought our teammate should have won the Heisman. I mean, he showed how good he was. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer in college and a Hall of Famer in the pros for a reason. We thought he should have won the Heisman. He did a good job of doing what he needed to do. If you look at all the past Heisman guys, he did just as much, if not more than those. So I think we took it as a slight, yes. But overall, man, we want to win the championship. The goal is not for somebody to win the Heisman. The goal is to win the championship. This is a team sport. Now, if you win an individual award because of that, I'm okay with that. However, my goal coming to the University of Tennessee had nothing to do with anybody winning the Heisman, myself included. I wanted to win championships. That was it. So if anyone came with the thought process of, I want to win the Heisman, hey, that's on you. That's your thing. I want to win championships. That's it. It's a team sport. Let's win a championship.
No, I don't think that Peyton in a million years would exchange that SEC championship that he won for a Heisman Trophy.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
And I thought him winning the SEC championship should have put him in the – you go back and look at that game. That was a Heisman moment in itself.
Amen.
Here's
we had
a bad half, and then we come back and we win, and he throws a touchdown pass to win the game. That should have put him in. That should have won the Heisman in by itself, in my opinion.
Well, here's the problem, Fred. I'm a voter now. I wasn't then, but I do know that you could send your ballots in the beginning of November. So you've got 4, maybe 5 weeks of football, and like 25% of the ballots came in the first week of November. Well, that's people that just don't care. I don't care who they voted for. I mean, I spent a couple of hours on the Sunday after the last game. I mean, it means a big deal to me. My greatest fear is that, like, my one vote could somehow affect a guy not winning or winning. And so I put a lot of thought into it. I voted for Bryce Young last year, and it just, a lot of people that are in it don't care, and they need to call those people out. I don't know how you do that, but if you're sending your vote in the first week of November, you're basically saying, I don't care about my vote, and I don't care about the award, which I think is shameful.
There's actually more to the story, though, with not. Oh, sorry, Fred.
I'm sorry. Let me just get this out, too. Let me tell you about this. Charles Woodson was not a bad football player. Now, don't get me wrong.
Amen.
He's a college football Hall of Famer and a pro football Hall of Famer also. And he had a stellar career. And I understand that the stats were better for Champ Bailey, but some of Champ Bailey's stats weren't the same type of impact when it came to the game.
It's true.
You look at the punt return against Michigan, that's a Heisman moment. And you're a cornerback. The interception against Penn State to seal the game, one-handed on the sideline, that's a Heisman moment. Touchdown pass against me. Those are things that, like, you look at it and say, man, he did his job when the lights were on and when the game was on the line. He made plays that helped them win the game. Him solely made those. And of course, on punt returns, you got guys blocking, but he did the returning of that. I can't sit here and say he didn't do a really good job. Do I think he deserved it over Peyton? I don't. However, he had a heck of a season for a defensive back.
I completely agree. I do think the media was tired of Peyton Manning because they had heard about him for 4 years. I think that was a big part of the issue.
Well, the deeper story here, and the one that I wanted to bring up was, guys, we're also forgetting that this was the 90s, and Fred, as you know, during this time, the SEC was the only conference that had a conference championship at that time, a conference championship game. And the Big Ten didn't. And I know a lot of writers, a lot of people, particularly traditionalists in college football, were very much opposed to a conference championship. So on principle, they wouldn't take the conference championship game into account when they're doing their Heisman ballot. So for many of them, the last game they took into
those are the people that should lose their vote.
Yeah. So the last game they took into account, they saw Charles Woodson ball out against Ohio State, like you said, which is one of the best games a cornerback has ever played in college football. That was just amazing. And they saw Peyton Manning against Vanderbilt, and let's just be honest, Peyton Manning didn't have that good of a game against Vanderbilt in '97. Played pretty poorly, and I think that stuck in their mind was that last game, that last regular season game for both of them.
Well, we're way sidetracked, but ESPN wanted more people to watch the Heisman Trophy ceremony. So they drummed up. They went through like 4 Big Ten guys, and Woodson was the last one. And again, I'm not knocking Woodson at all, Fred, but they did want more people to watch because of viewership, and it was a boring race. Peyton was going to win it, and I think it kind of got out of control a little bit, like the movie Gremlins. You know, if you just keep the cute little thing and you don't let it eat after midnight or whatever the rule was, you got a cute little animal, but it gets out of control, and suddenly the whole damn town's burning down.
And I think the biggest slap in the face, though, is that he lost it to a defensive guy. There's only been 2 defensive guys that win it, and it may never be another defensive guy ever win it. Although the guy from Notre Dame, the one who had the fake girlfriend, he almost got close.
Oh, man.
But that's the biggest slap in the face to me. You haven't given it to a defensive guy, but once before that. And it had been years since the guy had it. And some guys that had some really good defensive years and didn't win the Heisman Trophy, you know, and you lose to that guy. You lose to a defensive guy, and you're Peyton Manning. I like to think that fueled him a lot, too, when he got to the next level. I'm pretty sure it did. But I always look at that and say, man, how does he not win the Heisman that year when he was like the clear guy to win it? And I just didn't understand it. I still don't understand it. But I don't knock Charles Woodson because he did go to the NFL and have a great year. He had a great season that season. But I really feel like he got hosed.
Did you guys ever have somebody in high school have a made-up girlfriend from Canada or California or something? I honest to goodness did. Honest to goodness did. And his name was Chris. And I remember he lied all the time. And he was like, yeah, my girlfriend might be coming in this summer from Canada. Now, this is before social media or dating apps. How in the world did you meet somebody from Canada? And he had some BS excuse. And I was like, you're just flat out lying. Did you guys have anybody like that?
I remember people thinking you had a fake girlfriend somewhere. Some guys did have fake girlfriends. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've met some. I know some guys who have fake girlfriends. Sure did.
What, did you meet Manti Te'o?
No, I did not. Ola Nay. I don't think he did either.
No, but it does sound like Fred met Sean Alexander's girlfriend.
Well, the good news about Manti Te'o's girlfriend is that she didn't die because she never existed. Because the word was she passed away, but she didn't exist. So that was the good news that came out. That was the silver lining.
She just magically disappeared.
She was magically never there.
Guys, am I the delusional one that thinks Manti Te'o was just so super sheltered that he actually did fall for the hoax?
Yeah, well, but that's fine. He either is contrived or dumb. I think I'd rather be contrived.
You know, if he was in my era where we've just got the internet and just, all we had was email, I'd give him a little bit more, leeway on this situation. But listen, man, he was in the era of having Facebook and MySpace and all these. You mean to tell me you didn't see not one real picture? You never met this person at all, ever? Hey, man, you're a football player, one of the most celebrated football players at the University of Notre Dame. You mean to tell me you couldn't find a girlfriend on that campus?